Lots of people signed up as well. That's great. Really nice to see some people coming and joining us this afternoon. As I say, we'll be kicking off very shortly. Just give people maybe 1 more minute, and then we'll get going. So we do have an office dog, if anybody can ever hear a dog in the background, just for entertainment purposes. And she makes sure that keeping us right, you know. That sounds good.
Apologies for that. You don't know how much danger you're in until you have a dachshund.
One thing that we do have open today is the chat facility. So if anybody does want to pop in their details, we're all about collaboration and making things happen. So if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us why you're here, we'd love to hear that. If you've got any burning questions you'd like to pop in straight away, please do use the chat facility. If you've got your LinkedIn profile or anything else that you'd like to share so that we can connect with you after the event, that would be great as well. So please do use that chat. Sustainability doesn't happen on its own. It's one big joint activity. As I say, going to try and make it quite fun and chatty this afternoon. So yeah, please do drop anything in there that you will find useful to connect with other people, or if you've got a challenge that you would like us to cover, anything along those lines, chat box is open. Okay, so we're getting around to sort of 3 minutes past. So I think that's where we can start kicking off our little webinar today. So I just want to say welcome to everybody that's joined us. Thank you for taking the time out to come and hear about our sustainability stories. And that is a great way to hear what's actually happening on the front line of sustainability. I would like to say thank you very much to the Yorkshire Sustainability Festival for hosting us as a fringe event. I did attend last year in person. It's a really, really great way to bring lots of different organisations together. So thank you very much to them for all the promotion and hosting us, as I say, for this afternoon. My name's Anne-Marie Soulsby. I work with Genee, and I'm going to be your host and facilitator for this session this afternoon. And we've got some excellent speakers who are here to talk about their experiences in the sustainability space. So it would be great if we could have a little introduction from you guys to kick us off. Yeah, if you'd like to introduce yourself, starting with Jo, if you don't mind.
Yeah, thanks, Anne-Marie. I'm Jo Holmes. I am the Managing Director at Genee Consulting. We do lots of things around sustainability and waste, and across the Northeast, Northwest, and soon to be Yorkshire and Humber. But the main thing we do is deliver a thing called Investors in the Environment. So that's me.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And over to Rachel.
Hi everybody, my name is Rachel Leach and I work at Gateshead College as the Sustainability Officer, and I'm here just today to have a little bit of a chat about how we've approached our net zero journey along with IIE.
And last but not least, over to Stephen.
Hi guys, nice to meet you. My name's Steve Mack, and I currently work for Newcastle United Foundation, which is the official charity of the football club. My role here is the head of compliance, of which I'm the sustainability lead. So nice to meet you all. Looking forward to today's session.
Lovely, jubbly. Thank you so much, guys. So yeah, we'll be having a fireside chat. So we'll just be talking through some of the individual challenges that our speakers have faced in terms of delivering sustainability in their different types of organizations, how that's produced key strategies and different practices under the Investors in Environment program, and what kind of successes and impacts that resulted in, and any lessons that have been learned. But we also do want to make sure that it's interactive. So as I said previously, the question and answer session will be held after the little chat. but do post your questions in the chat anytime anything comes to mind, but we'll answer those at that time in the question and answer session. And then we'll be asking our lovely speakers to provide one final takeaway at the end of our session. So that's our agenda for today. As part of the introduction, Joe is just going to walk us through a little bit more about Genee and what Investors in the Environment is, so that we've all got a picture of what that programme is about just at the beginning before we start our little chat session. So over to Joe.
Can I have that slide, please? Brilliant, thank you. So as I said, my name's Jo Holmes. I run Genee. We are based in the Northeast. We're a B Corp certified environmental consultancy, and the main thing we do on a day-to-day basis is deliver investors in the environment. And so what we do is work with organisations of all sizes, from really small micro charities right up to NHS trusts and local authorities and colleges and all sorts of types. So Investors in the Environment fits any scale and type of organisation. We also run the North East Recycling Forum and the newly formed Northwest Resources Forum. And we've been asked if we could start one in Yorkshire and Humber as well. So watch this space. We'll see we can accommodate that as well. So Investors in the Environment, which is what we're here to talk about today, is an environmental accreditation scheme. It's nationally recognised, and we work with a whole plethora of organisations, as I said. Why it's fantastic and why I'm so evangelical about it and love it so much is this staged approach. So and what that does, it means we can meet clients at whatever stage they're at. So if you are right at the start, scratching your head thinking, I'd love to do something, but I just don't know what to do and I don't know where to start, bronze level accreditation is for you. So it enables you to set up the bones of an environmental management system. It helps you to set up those processes and systems in place that you need to manage all your resources effectively and efficiently and spot the areas of where reduction is possible. So it's like the real start. It's not asking for everything all at once. And another thing that sets us apart and what is so lovely about Investors in the Environment is that we don't just ask you to upload your evidence, we help you gather that evidence. So you have a consultant, we have templates and guides and training sessions and loads of resources that you can use. So anything we ask you to do as part of your accreditation, we'll help you do it as well. We help you get there. So it's not just about, again, uploading evidence. It's a real hand-holdy thing, which is something I love, particularly working with the smaller end of organisations who just need that bit more support. And then as you move up through the levels, we ask for more. We want it further embedding. We want targets to have been set. We want systems in place that will meet those targets. We look further in terms of you've got a waste management plan. You're starting to look at the travel implications of your organisation and start embedding travel plans and gathering travel data. And it's really about enabling and facilitating that organisations to start looking at their policy and their governance and how that filters through their organisation and how data enables them to either direct where attention needs to be or measure the impact of the things that all the different activities they're doing. So as I say, we work with loads of organisations and I'm so grateful to Rachel and Steve today for coming along and helping us sort of bring to life what it means actually on the ground for organisations. I think that's really a key delivery of today. But it's a fantastic system and it really does work for any size or shape of organisation.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Jo. Okay, so we will get into our little discussion now. So One of our first questions for our attendees is about inspiration. So if you would mind sharing us what inspired your organisation to start the journey towards net zero. And I think if we could start with Steve, that'd be great.
I think our focus was probably like a lot of us on the call today, we weren't doing anything. Our impact on the environment, it was there to be seen. We had an office with a cardboard bin in the corner, and that was for recycled paper if you fancied putting it in. And that was it. So when we talk about being at a real start entry point, we couldn't have started much further back than where we were. So we took it on board to start the journey and do something about the process by reaching out. And I think that's really crucial for all the partners on the call today. It's about reaching out. You cannot do this alone. Support from Joe and the team has been 100% needed, wanted, and is ongoing all the time. They're brilliant. And that's what the beauty of this organisation is about. There's a permanent lens on the club and the foundation. Obviously, Newcastle United's probably the biggest brand in the northeast of the city. And what we do is have to be seen to be leading by example. So for me, when we sort of fell into this field, and it was falling into this field, I sit on the senior management team, and I said to Joe for a laugh a few years back, I must have been off work that day. And I come in and on my desk was like, let's launch sustainability, let's look at the environment, and let's look at policies and procedures. So you have to be in it. So that was my stage one, was like, right, I'm on board, I'm in the saddle, and I want to be part of this journey. So I looked at my own lens first. There's no point in sitting on top of the rooftop shouting about the environment, the impact, what we can measure, what we can do, unless you're not in the game yourself. So for me, it was like, yeah, roll your sleeves up, let's do this, and let's broadcast. So yeah, it was a start of a journey which we're ongoing, and it's a learning everyday journey, and it's about the support of the network around you. Events like this, for example.
Lovely, that's brilliant. Yep, thanks so much. Over to Rachel about how you got inspired to start net zero journey as part of the college.
I think the college was quite proactive on this. So they do something called community conversations, which is where usually over 2 days, several hundred businesses, students and staff kind of are mixed on big tables and asked what they want to see for the community, what they want the college to focus on. And this most recent year, a lot about inequality, about poverty, and about travel came out. But two and a half, 3 years ago, before I was actually employed, it was all about sustainability, equality, impact on the environment. And so when the college rewrote their strategy, sustainability was 1/4 of that, along with students, people in our partnerships. So I think before I was even employed, I think I was employed off the back of that community feeling, and it came from the staff and the students and local businesses, which was really good. So it wasn't that I was brought in to force the issue. It was I was brought in to expand, enhance, and run with what people already wanted. They just didn't have the time to do. So I'd love to say it was all because of me, but it wasn't. The college already had that ready. They had that kind of motivation, and they had the students' future at the heart of what they wanted to achieve, and they wanted to do that with their community. So I think it's just been something that they knew they needed more resources to help along, and then that's where I came in.
Brilliant, that's great. And Joe, I don't know what if you want to sort of step in from a micro business perspective and say about
definitely.
Yeah,
thanks. I should have said as well, Genee is also an IIE accredited business. We got green accreditation this year. And one of the things I was interested in terms of going for a B Corp accreditation, for example, was how IIE fit with that and how it could help. And it absolutely enabled us to satisfy the environment bit of the B Corp accreditation. So I should have said that in my intro bit. And where we come at, because we're just a really small consultancy. Overall, our impact on the environment's probably not that big. We're just a small team, a very small office. But I'm really interested in walking the talk and being able to prove, because very often in strategic conversations or conversations you have with business support organisations, it's very much like, oh, we can't ask SMEs to be doing this, we can't ask charities to be doing this. Well, I was very much of the mind I wanted to show and prove that small organisations can go that extra mile, can embed this in their organisations, and that it does have a business benefit. So that's what we've done. So yeah, as a small organisation, it really was important for us to be able to deliver investors in the environment or any other support to organisations across this agenda, but be able to say, well, yeah, we're doing it too. This is what we do on a practical level. And we are well aware of the business pressures and the resource pressures because we are one. So so yeah, so that's why we've also got the accreditation. It's been a really useful process, but also be mindful of human nature, and I think that's what's so great about this as well. Human nature is it falls down the to-do list. If this is not your full-time job, it can just very easily fall down that to-do list. And it's amazing the level and flurry of activity that happens around audit time and how it really does focus the mind on, right, we've got to do it. And we're no different to that when we're coming up to our IIE audit. It's a few swear words and right, come on, we better get our data and all our evidence in order. So I think it's just important to be able to have that lived experience when you're supporting organisations through it.
Brilliant, thanks, Jo. So if we think about what are some of the first steps that you took after joining the IIE programme, what did that look like for you, Rachel?
I think one of the first things was to try and get the right people in the room. And I think there were more people that we needed in that room than we thought we did, because very often it was dealt in a very facilities management way. So there wasn't very many people involved. It was one team, whereas when we actually looked at who we needed in that room, we needed finance, we needed procurement, we needed HR, we needed communications, and it was just that much broader picture of what IE wanted us to look at and how it actually pervaded through all the different areas. So one of the first things we did was create a green steering group and mapped out everything we needed to measure and then put that alongside the IE framework as well.
Brilliant. So how did that go down with all of the other people in the room? How did I take that on board?
I think it was a bit of a learning curve because people sometimes see sustainability as a facilities job. And when you start talking about the broader kind of journey of net zero and everything else that's involved in that, you realize that so many more people needed to be involved. We did do a basic like carbon literacy and net zero workshop, and I think everybody came out of that with hopefully that bit of a switch and a flick, and they went, is this actually what your job is? Because I think they thought I was here to be the bin police. So it was really nice to kind of broaden that perspective, get more people involved, and to get different opinions in that room as well.
Yeah. Everybody hates the bin police, but they also love to recycle. So it's a bit of a dichotomy at times, isn't it, really? That's great. Steve, over to you. What were some of the first things that you took on board after joining IIE?
Well, as well as the bin police, I was known as the fun sponge, take the fun out of stuff. So I think for me, it was like similar to Rachel's journey there, was like pulling staff in who want to be on board. So my first steps were pulling together the green team. So rather than the environment and recycle and sustainability working group, we just gave the clean title of the green team. So we've got 7 or 8 members to come in. And that's sort of like with me and that team, we can then cascade the information out about what we're going to do, the direction, how we're going to lead it, how in steps we're not giving people extra work. It's just we're going to work smarter, etc. And that group was meeting, and then obviously when I talked to them about the investors, the environment framework, and the accreditation you can get, it sort of really helped us mapped out what we're going to do, because we were initially like, how do we do this? What have we got to do, and where do we take it? So it was a case of benchmarking the members of the green team to say, look, can you assist me with working on the action plans assigned to different areas in the business? So the energy, the water, the social action, engaged with the schools, how we feed back to the trustees. And right from the top, I think that was important as well, that we got a trustee on board. So we have a senior management team, and then we have a board of trustees like other organisations have. So we got a nominated member of our trustee to become the green team as well. So we had members of the senior management team know what we're doing, so we could shout up as well as shout down. So I think if from the top they don't know what you're trying to achieve, it could get lost in translation a bit. So it's really important to get all the staff involved, but also to make sure that the top guys are realising what you're doing and where you're going. And I say the framework that IEE set us to work towards and to gather evidence really framed all the steps we could take. Otherwise, it would have been a bit more of a scattergun approach, I feel.
Definitely. So we're hearing a lot about how getting the right people in, getting everyone involved, having stakeholders, and they're all key parts to starting in this journey, so that everybody can contribute and also feel that they own and are part of making this happen, so they can see the successes along the way. So that's brilliant. Have you had any specific initiatives that have come out from implementing IIE that where you've noticed some significant impact there, Steve?
I think there's big wins and there's little wins. I think that, you know, so I give an example. We got the facilities team on board after we got the finance team on board, and facilities and finance really like making cuts, we know that. So we got them on board and we done an energy audit as part of the action plan. We've been in our new building, which is at Newcastle, new building, the foundation's home. It's basically massive building, sports hall, rooftop pitch, and we'd realised that through this, nobody went round and done an energy audit.
Wow.
So we had action plans, but so Simon from the team walked round and looked at what bookings were had regularly, when were open in each room. And through that energy audit, through the energy action plan, which were fed into the IE system, per week we cut 230 hours of energy. And that didn't impact the business at all. It's 230 hours of energy for our cost. Finance team's happy. For the environment, the green team's happy. And for just an initiative, we're like, wow, that's impact. So that was like what I would call a big win. Little wins are, we've got an open office, it's at Newcastle building, and staff sit opposite each other. We now got a habit now of staff only got one laptop charger, and it plugs in, and when theirs is nearly full, they plug it out, and the guy opposite plugs theirs in. Where we used to have people come in the office, fire up the computers, plug in the charger was plugged in for 8 hours and they went home. So there's like big wins and little wins, and that's about cascading the message out through like the green team getting that out there. So yeah, there's huge things you can do, but I also quite like to walk the office and see no one's laptop plugged in. So it's just that resonates with me.
Yeah, so it's that collaboration and everybody joining together towards a common goal. That's really nice. Rachel, have you seen any specific initiatives that have come out of implementing IIE?
Yeah, and I think it's varied levels. So we've had a few really big ones. So we've now got 2 of our sites connected to the district energy centre, which is a really good one for us because it takes off a lot of the pressure for our heating systems. So for those that don't know, locally we have several solar arrays. We have a mine wastewater project, so they shoot water down into the mines, take the heat from that, and then that feeds into our buildings to provide most of our heating. And it was especially helpful over the winter. So that's one of the bigger ones because that's 2 out of our 4 sites and 2 of our bigger sites that we've saved a lot on energy in terms of cost and in terms of usage as well, because it is a little bit more of an efficient system than what we had. We also put solar PVs on our multi-story car park, which is attached to our main building, which even over the winter, we've seen some fairly good. I think they said about 7 to 8%, I think we were looking at. And so for the first winter, that's quite good. We're quite happy with that. But those are some kind of more of the kind of bigger capital projects. But then even the smaller initiatives, things like just increasing recycling. We started with also doing food waste back of house. We then put food waste at the front of house, and you can see people slowly changing their mindsets and behaviors. So you have a mix of initiatives that are kind of very facilities focused and are just kind of implementing a project. And then there's some that are more, you have to engage with people a lot. There has to be a lot of communication, a lot of follow up. And that one's kind of like a longer journey of keeping it going, making sure people know how much we've recycled, if there's been any contamination, etc. So people really know that it's not something we're pretending we're doing, that we're doing it has impact, and that we do have like an audit process to follow the whole way through. We even changed waste contractor, partly because the tender was up, but partly so that we could get more accurate data. We have more waste stream possibilities with them. They're up for trying to create more waste streams to recycle things into a more refined and a better way. So even just changing who you work with as well has created a better impact and a measurable change for us as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and it's good that those old systems from the fossil fuel days are now actually fueling the renewable future. And yeah, working with different suppliers can actually make a big difference. Over to you, Joe. Have you got any initiatives that have been implemented from a small business perspective?
Yeah, we were quite big and bold, to be honest, for the size of the organisation. So for us, it was all about looking at the travel. So we got an electric vehicle company car, and we installed photovoltaics to charge it. But also one of my passion pieces is biodiversity. So we've planted 650 metres of hedgerow and trees. And we're looking at improving the site as much as possible in terms of biodiversity and nature. So, it's looking at your organisation holistically. It's almost like I've written a script for Steve, because I couldn't have asked him to say more perfect thing. But investors in the environment is so good for that framework bit. It's like it gives you like sort of, it's almost like title headings of what you need to look at next, and then your audit report at the end of the year gives you like, this is really good, well done, keep going with that, we love this is such a great example. And sometimes we create case studies out of these things because we just love what our members are doing. And then you get tips, right? So next time think about, and we're always being like a bit ambitious and pushy, like this is really good, but keep going. Like it's, to improve it, we could do this. To improve it, we can do that. So that sort of thing. But for Genee, it's the biodiversity thing is the thing that we've added on in terms of looking at our overall impact and where we want to see improvements.
And has there been any obstacles that you've faced, and any ways that you've overcome those?
So money is always an obstacle, especially when you've got very limited resources, and that unlimited resources can be time as well. So it's a time pressure, isn't it? But for us, it's money. So we were really fortunate. I got some funding through the North East Community Forest. So sometimes it's thinking outside the box. Sometimes it's looking for funding opportunities to help you do what you need to do. There is quite a lot of information. There's a lot of various funding opportunities. For example, in the Northeast, Going Green Together is launching again. So there'll be funding available for voluntary sector organisations at the start of this journey to go through investors in the environment. So I would say, and it's the same for most organisations really, its resource is often a barrier. Like there's lots of organisation with ambition for big, as Rachel said, capital projects, and they would love to get involved and install renewable energy, for example, and cost is a major barrier.
Yeah, back to you, Rachel. Have you had any obstacles regarding implementation and any ways that you've managed to overcome?
I think you'll find they're very, very similar. Engagement and people's time, especially with teachers and education. I don't think I've ever seen people move so fast. But in the same vein, money is always going to be one when you're publicly funded. I think we were lucky for the solar because we got a Salix funding bid to be able to do that. But for example, we also wanted to install air source heat pumps, and then that came back and said, yeah, you've won the bid, but you can have 20%. But there's no way the college could have afforded the other 80. So there are some things that you can actually ask staff to fill out funding bids for weeks on end, and then even if you do win, you're still not going to be able to afford that. So I think definitely, especially when you're working with public money and you're working within education, you've definitely got to weigh what's best for the students, what is physically possible, when you're going to get the most impact out of, and then make those decisions from there. So it's good that we and we don't make those decisions in isolation. They're taken through the Green Steering Group, through the exec group, through the board of governors, and we now have 2 link governors, so they always have sustainability as a priority in mind, but we just have to balance those interests. But the discussion is still being had, and maybe 3 years ago it wasn't quite in, we didn't have that reporting track. So even just having the really strong leadership structure to take those decisions through, I think that's helped us find get around challenges. You've got a lot of very, very clever people in the board of governors, and we're very lucky that they're so supportive and have kind of that conversation with us. So any challenge we do have, we then have the right support in place now.
Brilliant. It's all about evidence and being able to deliver that, to create the strategy around it.
Yeah.
Over to you, Steve. Any obstacles that you faced?
I think just early days was, simply getting staff on board that we're going to do this, getting them on board that it's, I'm not going to give them a task. Obviously, very similar to Joe and Rachel with regards to there's no budget attached. We haven't got a designated sustainability officer or project coordinator. It's sort of all hands to the pump, let's do this, through me leading it. But yeah, just getting everybody on board. To say, look, we're going to go in this direction, come with us, sort of thing. So, and then working with partners who work with us and trying to tell our story about why we're doing this. So we want to implement a strategy where if you haven't got a net zero policy and you're not on that pathway, we probably don't want to procure from you going down the line. So there's a couple of obstacles that we're trying to work on and overcome. And if you've got that, can we work with as many local companies and sources as we can? So there's just simple things that I didn't think about that then became obstacles, because I want to do this. I want to run through a brick wall. You need to settle down, calm down. How are you going to do this? So yeah, so I probably sometimes got a little bit ahead of myself, but I had to rein myself in. So I'm not saying I was the obstacle, but there was a little bit you can't change the world. It's small steps, and I think the accreditation is brilliant for that, because it can set out a real strategic approach to pulling things together, evidence of bronze, pulling things together, keep it going, momentum, get the silver and keep going. So any businesses starting out in the journey, the framework that IAE offers here, but the accreditation is, first of all, it's a pat on the back, which is brilliant. Everybody likes a pat on the back. No one gets up in the morning and tries to be rubbish. But if you get these accreditations along the way, it just tells yourself when you go home, we're doing things the right way, and then maintaining it. So yeah, I think that the obstacle is where do we start, how we're going to do it, what we're going to do it. But then with this accreditation support from the team, it really gets you to where you need to be. It's really positive.
And has there been any surprising lessons or insights that you didn't expect when you started that has come out of being in the programme?
I think for me, it was when you talk to the organisations, the massive void for where different organisations and companies are.
Yes.
Some are really proficient and know what they're doing, and this has been ingrained into them for years. Some are absolutely at the beginning, the start of the journey. There's no one size fits all. So when we talk to companies and we've got some data going back a couple of years, they're like, where do we start that? And there's some are real talking about massive projects with heat pumps and solar panels, etc. We haven't got a roof on our building, so it's not easy to do solar panels, which I found out. But it's just little wins like that. So yeah, I think it's the real void of where all the companies are, their journey, have they started or the way down the line on it. Yeah, I think it was quite alarming. Not alarming, just starting. I was like, wow, I didn't realise there was such a void in where all the journeys are.
Absolutely. Not on the same playing field, Steve? There's one for you. Rachel, anything that you didn't expect that has come out of being on the programme?
Probably I think how much I've learned that's extra. So I think in theory I'm meant to be qualified for this job, but I think when you start to explore it, there's so much you get to learn, and I do see it as an opportunity. And also not to underestimate that, but that's why IE is so helpful, because you don't enter anything with a blank space. You have templates, you've got resources, you've got the Green Champion course that I did when I first started, because even my masters didn't cover carbon accounting, and I only did it about 12 months before I started this job, and that was in theory then really up to date, and even now it would be completely obsolete in parts. So I do think that the insight for me is that this is a learning journey. No company is going to come into this, just tick everything off and move on. The more we go into carbon accounting with scope 1, 2 and 3, the more I'm learning, the more we're engaging with suppliers. We're having a really interesting discussion now. I've started scoring procurement tenders, which I've never done before. So I think it's, I suppose, an insight and a personal reflection on this is going to be something that you won't get right, you will learn from. It is a bit of an experiment about what works. We're changing our questions we're asking for every tender. So when we're deciding who we are going to work with and why, it's become an important part, and both social value and sustainability now have weighted questions. And I probably couldn't have even said that sentence 18 months ago because I wouldn't know what it meant. So I suppose just an insight is how much you will learn and adapt and then build that into the work you go into. So if you read some of this and think, I don't even know what that means, that's fine, neither did I, but you'll be coached through it. The resources are there, and also the region is there. I don't think I realized how people are collaborative in this space. Sometimes in education, because to an extent it is a competition to get your students into your college or your customers into your business. Sustainability seems to be in net zero the most collaborative space I've found, because people working in it understand that you can't do it without everybody else. We can't achieve scope 3 if the council don't meet theirs objectives, if transport don't meet theirs, if central government don't decarbonise the grid. So if we don't share best practice and don't help, no one's going to get there. So it kind of gets rid of the barriers and the gatekeeping and just allows people to share and work together, which I quite like. So it's pretty much an open door. And in previous industries, I used to work in hospitality, retail, and tourism. It's not the same. So it's quite nice to have that collaborative nature and work environment.
Yeah, I'm going to give you every day's a school day for you, Rachel.
It is.
Over to Joe. Any surprising lessons or insights when starting an IIA journey from a small business perspective?
Yeah, I just love that, Rachel. That is so true. And hopefully, I think if you're doing a good job, that'll be the case for the rest of your career. Like, like every day is a school day and we're all learning all the time, because this is a changing thing and it is adapting. And I also wanted to bring up the point that don't underestimate the power of asking your suppliers for even just their environmental policy. I think that supply chain pressure is really starting to have an impact, and certainly we're getting a lot more inquiries through from organisations who want to stay on people's procurement lists, the NHS, for example, or just being asked over and over by customers for an environmental policy, and they haven't got one, and it's just really like kickstarting that. Surprise, not so much surprise, and I'm not being really surprised. I do agree with you, Steve, in terms of the level of activity and knowledge across organisations is vast, and not ever assuming knowledge. When you go into large organisations, you can assume like, oh, they must know, or they must have something really well established and embedded. That's not always the case. So being careful not to assume somebody's further down the journey than they are. I've just loved seeing organisations flourish in this and get that. And when that spark goes and they get it and they start talking about, like you just said, Steve, about and Rachel, about procurement and thinking, even like when they start thinking about their waste management system and how it links in with what they're buying and people's behaviour and and psychology, where they place bins is really important, and all of those things. It's like it once you get it, it is like an endlessly I mean, I think waste is endlessly fascinating, but I'm different in that respect. But it is that sustainability is a learning journey for everyone, and even consultants coming in and helping, we're still learning all the time, and I love that I'm still learning from and getting ideas from our members. One of our members, for example, when we audited them recently, had twinned their toilet. And I just absolutely love that. So now Genie's toilet is twinned with a toilet in Tanzania, and so that it helps. It's a bit of social value, but I just thought it was a really nice initiative. So it's like we're constantly learning from the members and getting ideas. And what's also really good about this is what I learned from Steve and what I learned from Rachel, I can pass on to other members and say, when they come up with an issue and think, oh, we're really struggling with this, I can say, oh, do you know, one of our members was also struggling with that, and they did it. They overcame it by X, Y, Z, whatever it is. So that cross-pollination is really valuable as well, and those case studies are really important, because, and sessions like this are really useful, because it's that people are doing it. Let's learn from them who are doing it. The funded program we did with the Going Green Together, that was a really great thing, because we did training sessions of just breaking investors in the environment down into like what it means. So we say policy, right? What is a policy? Why is it there? What should be in it? Why should I have one? That sort of thing. But the most valuable thing was they talked to each other during those sessions, and it was that sort of you saw shoulders dropping and them starting to relax when they understood they're not the only one. Sometimes you can feel like I'm the only one who doesn't know something, or you're afraid to ask a question because you think I'm going to look stupid and that everyone else must know. But that isn't the case in this agenda, and we can all learn, and we have to work together to get to where we need to get to. So, yeah.
Wonderful. I just got to ask a little bit about reporting and tracking what you're doing, and how do you engage and communicate with your stakeholders in that respect, in terms of making sure that they understand what this means to them. I'm going to pass that one to Rachel to start with.
So we have a few more, I would say, more light touch ones that are usually talking about processes that are changing or celebrations of something that's gone well, which we have a weekly brief that goes out to all of our staff. We have an online intranet that our staff and students see different versions of. And we have stuff that goes on the website or on socials. But then in terms of like the more formal reports, that's something that I create an officer update that goes to the Green Steering Group, which is usually around termly. And then those updates are then collated into our exec team, which then go to our finance and governing board, finance and general purposes board. And then they go to what I call the baby board and the big board, which I shouldn't call them that. But we have a smaller meeting of our board of governors, and then we have the full board. So I think it's we do a lot of smaller updates and then usually have a bit of an annual summary. So I suppose at all of those times, it's not a one-way in communication. There's always something where people can feedback, how they get involved, if they want to question anything. So we do try and make sure that it's not just a report that's being passed up, it's a discussion that's had for how do we think this has gone, how do we make sure we improve it.
Brilliant. And Steve, for you?
I think similar with the formal reports, like the bi-monthly reports that go to the board, the trustees, the senior management team, we cascade reports to all staff. The social media impact of what we're doing in schools is quite a real positive story. So we as the foundation work with 27,000 school kids on an annual basis. Very, very fortunate on some of the social action projects we run. We can pull in the players to get involved. We've had Sean Longstaff putting bird homes up. We've had the players involved recently with a boot recycle scheme, where all the local participants who are finished with a pair of football boots, they come into the foundation with the club's backing. Helen's been great at the club, and we give them a clean through, get the players to do that, and then we reissue them to the community. So I think like getting messages and stories like that through our website and the socials and all different platforms for us is important as well. So it just shows you what we're doing, and it puts our foot well in the community about we're doing a lot of things behind the scene, but also we're quite visible what we're doing right in front of the camera, so to speak. So yeah, both the reports are really important, but also letting people see on a day-to-day basis what we're doing.
That's fantastic. Yeah, yeah. Not any green hushing, more green shouting. Yeah. And just sticking with you, Steve, in terms of, we've mentioned a couple of carrots there that are obviously attractive. You've mentioned about sort of like, saving money and all the benefits that have come through. Is there anything unique about sustainability in your sector from a charity or a sports perspective, that you can talk about in terms of benefits, but also any sticks that are coming in, anything that may need to jolly people along in the right direction regarding sustainability for you?
I think it's just obviously we're in partnership with a club, but it's the whole lens on sport. So FIFA got a right good kick in the teeth for the next World Cup, which is going to be based mental in USA, Canada, and Mexico. So the travel alone is going to be absurd. So it's just trying, bring things in together. So with the club, Helen, the sustainability manager, we've got like a Magpie mover where they're getting all the fans to get onto the bus rather than bring their car into the stadium. So there's less transport load. So it's them little initiatives and then little carrots we can say to participants. We always go with we work with 27,000 school kids, and they're our sounding board, they're our voice. Because if they go home at tea time and speak to mum and dad and brother and sister, all of a sudden you've engaged 100,000 people. And if they on the weekend speak to the school team, you've got 1 million people talking about sustainability. So it's getting on board with this, getting in front of the school kids, telling them what we're doing, with rewards of coming to the stadium, tours and things like that. So we have lots of events on at the stadium, and we're trying to get the message across to all the participants who we work with, and then hopefully they'll broadcast on a wider network, a little bit like a ripple going out and out and out on the lake. So yeah, it's just getting the message out there, telling people what they're doing, being visible, being accountable, and asking questions. We'll ask you questions, but you come and ask us questions as well, because we learn every day from partners. That's a great idea. I'm not doing that, but I'm going to start doing it. I'm a great stealer of ideas, mate. Like,
Why not? Well, you don't need to reinvent the wheel now, do we? But you've that's really cool that you've got lots of little mini influencers doing your job for you. Because yeah, it would be really hard to try and hit 100K of people in one shot. So yeah, well done on getting that child labour in there for you, Steve, in the positive way. Over to you, Rachel. Is there any sort of incentives and challenges in the education sector which is, helping you in terms of driving IIE within the college?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting one. Finance is always going to be a challenge in the education sector, but I think more a unique one is we've both got a unique position, the fact that in FE across the country, I think we have 5 million learners. Like you were saying, it's that ripple effect. And then you think about we've got 500 and odd staff alone, then all of our suppliers. We do have a position to make that ripple effect and quite to be a good agency for change. But in the same vein, we also have a population and especially a demographic where we have a lot of problems in terms of poverty and hunger and inequality and accessibility. So in terms of a just transition, we constantly kind of think about, is this the right decision for net zero? Potentially, is this the right decision for the students? And we have to work between the two. So I could very easily spend a load of money and make a campus perfectly net zero, but it would be inaccessible to half our students and they wouldn't be able to afford to be here. So when we're thinking about how do we, really silly example or a tiny example is how do we stop people using disposables? And a lot of people said, oh, we'll just tax them. And I said, yeah, but who's that tax being passed on to? That's the student who can afford that one coffee a week or that one takeaway jacket potato a week, and you want to make that more expensive for them. So because we also have external people coming in, but they're not going to be the ones that can't absorb that cost. So is it that we provide reusable versions instead of the disposables, and then that cost needs to hit us or the supplier before it affects our students and even staff? Every working member is going to be feeling the pinch the same way the students are. So it is making sure that we create these changes in a way that still fits with our values and still protects the students in the way that we need to. So it's a lot of balancing trade-offs, trying to consider not a perfect solution, but one maybe in the middle. So that's sometimes a really difficult thing to do, because it means that a decision that normally could have taken one meeting takes 10, but if it gets it right for our staff and students, then that's the way we're going to go about it.
Yeah, so the concept of climate justice, which is looking at the whole system and how to make that applicable to everybody in a fair and just way, is really important, especially when we're tackling climate. So it reaches out beyond those borders as well, and facilitates that change too. Coming to Joe, just before we get into some questions from our lovely attendees today. Yeah, some carrots and sticks for the micro businesses or for SMEs. Can you talk us through some of those?
Yeah, there's plenty carrots. So if you want to trade with some organisations now, you need to be able to evidence that you're managing your environmental impacts. If you want to attract and retain really good staff, it's also a really important element too. And people, particularly younger people, want to work with organisations that are doing something, looking after the environment, being responsible. What else? I mean, just loads of incentives in terms of if good press stories, really good PR, but organisations again like a story about organisations that are doing things around this agenda. Also, like if you're a lean organisation, if you're running efficiently and you're not wasting energy or resources or time, however it is you're measuring, then you can spend the money on what you want to spend money on. So if you're a voluntary sector or a college, you can do it on your core delivery, or if you're a business, you can make more money doing the same thing with the same resource. So I would say there's so many benefits to looking after. I think anything you do for the environment, generally speaking, hits your pocket in a good way too. So it's a win-win, really. And sticks, this is coming. This is a real pressure in terms of supply chain. So I mentioned the NHS a couple of times, but they are really coming out strong with their language in terms of don't want to buy off organisations who don't have a carbon reduction strategy, environmental policy, or a net zero target. Lots of other organisations are going to follow suit with that. Others are looking at their procurement procedures. Rachel mentioned their sustainability teams are now starting to assess procurement and tenders. That's a new thing that didn't used to happen. The scoring is going up. It's a minimum of 10% for a lot of procurement opportunities now. So, you know, it makes business sense at both ends of the scale, really, in terms of being able to go for contracts in the first place, but also like running a lean organization just makes business sense anyway. So yeah, I suppose they're both carrots, aren't they? But yeah, it would be a threat not to. I think it was you, Anne-Marie, that said ages ago, like you said, I think it's the difference between VHS and Betamax. Like organizations who are doing things in sustainability will be the VHS option, and those who just don't want to engage will just go down the Betamax route. So it's one of those things. I think you've got to have it now rather than it's a nice to have.
Yeah, and the great thing is that, you know, everything is heading that way in terms of being able to demonstrate what you're doing. It's not just saying that you're committed to a target, it's actually evidencing that. And IIE supports all sorts of organizations across various different sectors and all different sizes. So it's about helping and supporting as opposed to sort of, you know, cutting people off. It's about making sure you can reach those requirements that are coming in from various different organizations, whether that's government, health services, or from larger customers as well, who also have to prove their sustainability. I'm aware that we haven't heard anything from our lovely attendees today, so if anybody does have a question out there and they'd like to stick it in the chat, please do. We can get one of our members today who can answer the question for you. Anything that's coming up around what we've discussed. We've got a question coming in here, hopefully. Because yeah, this is an opportunity to speak to people who are actually, you know, getting things done, whether that's moving from a cardboard box into a full system and getting 27,000 kids involved, or looking at how to, you know, report to the stakeholders who have asked for this in the first place. Yeah, so we've got a question coming in saying, I keep being asked to provide an environmental policy and a carbon reduction plan as part of being a supplier. Does membership of investors in the environment help meet those requirements? Who would like to answer that one?
I can answer that one.
Go on, Jo.
Yeah, yes.
Well done. Next question.
Yes, it does. Yeah, so part of your investors in the environment accreditation is the policy bit is a key requirement of accreditation. And then in terms of carbon reduction plan, we've got template carbon reduction plans on there, but they're really very bespoke to your organisation as well. So you work with your consultant, you can certainly build one of those, but that would be a fallout of your environmental management system anyway. You'd be able to really easily pull together a carbon reduction plan. But also lots of organisations now are looking at looking at you to set carbon reduction targets. And one of the things we do as part of this is you produce your carbon footprint, but also look at those targets. So some organisations, when I was working with the smaller charities, for example, they were like, well, I'm just going to set what the NHS said. I'll just set the same as the NHS. And I was like, well, but is that achievable? Do you understand the implications of that? Do you understand what that means for you as an organisation? Do you understand what investment that might require going forward? There's no point just writing something willy-nilly on a policy if it's not really going to mean anything. You don't really fully understand the implications. So, we handhold you through that as well and make sure that you know what it is you're committing to and what the implications are going forward. So, but yes, short answer, yes, that would do that.
Brilliant. one more question. How can we meaningfully engage in environmental sustainability without it becoming a financial or administrative burden? Do you think, Rachel, do you mind answering that one for her?
Yeah, I think depending on how far you're going to go, because there are going to be some things that are going to be a financial burden. You can't always get away from that. However, a lot of what we do, specifically mainly because we're in education, is our engagement with our curriculum. So essentially, sustainability should become an underpinning mindset and behavior, not an additional topic or job for somebody to do. So it's not necessarily that, for example, in every curriculum, we don't just bung on Climate 101 as an extra topic. It's more about the really valuable, relevant insights. So whether we're talking about health and well-being, whether it's hunger, whether it's equality, whether it's accessibility, whether it's sustainable construction methods, they're relevant and valuable. They're not an addition. And I think sometimes that's changing the mindset and for people to see them as behaviors, skills, and values, not just knowledge. So I think when you start talking about people needing to become a third expert, they don't need to really. If you can drip feed it across an entire organization, it becomes the culture. And I think, and then it's not a burden, it's just the way you do things. And I think that's sometimes where sometimes the stick comes in, because it's really nice to have everybody's opinion on how we change things, but sometimes some stuff just needs changing. And then we just learn how to make that part of the culture. And that can be done by incentives, new processes, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that everyone has to become the expert. So it's a bit of drip feeding, it's a bit of the broader view of it, and it's just really good comms. I couldn't have done my job without a really good comms team, so I'm very lucky.
Excellent. That's brilliant. I'm aware that we're coming up to the hour, so I'd just like to ask everybody if there's one piece of advice that you would like to give an organization who's considering starting with IIE, and I think we'll go to Steve on that one, if that's okay.
Definitely, you can't do this alone. Like I said earlier, reach out, ask for support, and there's no daft questions on the early stage of setting out on the journey. So yeah, reach out and get the support and network. Talk to people, ask questions, share your sweets, get some sweets back off them. Yeah, just reach out.
That's lovely. And yeah, over to Joe.
Yeah, what I would say is, if you're thinking of making a start and you're thinking you don't know where to start, then Investors in the Environment is a brilliant framework in which to do that. But also what I would say is it's being developed by a charity, so it's priced really reasonable considering what you get. So all the resources and the consultants. For a consultant-based model, it's, I would say, too cheap, because I deliver it, but it is really reasonable. So it's totally accessible for every level of organization. I would say that. So, but also, like, make a start is the best place, and then you build on it. So you don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to do it right from the get-go. Build on it slowly, and that'll make it more meaningful. It'll embed it better, but also it's really accessible to everyone.
Grab a bargain. That sounds good. Good value there. And anything that you would like to say, Rachel, in terms of advice to other education establishments that would be considering this?
I think, yeah, perfect can be the enemy of good and actually getting stuff done. This isn't going to be perfect the first time. Stuff's going to go wrong. You will learn from it. Evidence everything, so you don't end up doing it at the end, and use all the support templates and consulting time you can get. You don't have to just go it alone. And sometimes you think you're too busy to ask for the advice, but actually you get things done a lot faster if you do. And that's one I've learned. So rather than just kind of rabbiting away in your own office, ask for that advice, assistance, best practice, and then things will move a lot quicker.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, as has been mentioned before, and obviously we've demonstrated today that we're all lovely people. We like helping each other, and it's about working together, having a bit of fun along the way, getting other people involved, making it really relevant and specific to people so they understand what their role is and how they can get involved, and so that then they take ownership, and also making it that's not uber perfection. It's all about making those steps in a meaningful way, and being able to do it with lots of support and structure and evidence and reports. So it's all really good. And yeah, Steve's just put it in there. All good, all green. Well, that brings us up to the hour. I'd just like to say a massive thank you to both Rachel and Steve for coming on board today, and all the insight that Joe's provided on the programme. It's been lovely. I literally could talk to you, though, for another sort of 3 hours on each of your guys's achievements, and also what that means to your stakeholders, whether it's the little supporters coming along to the tune, or whether it's the the next generation who are going to be taking on some of these challenges from Rachel's establishments, and also connecting with all sorts of other businesses along the way. So thank you so much, guys, for your time. Thank you for everybody that's attended today. And yeah, if you do need to get in touch, you can contact Joe at genee.org.uk. It's in the chat there for you. And we'll also be sending out some links and information to attendees later on. And so great. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.